It's the Friday night pint. The weekend is here, and so are the Glazers. Because if you believe reports, Tom, the Glazers are doing exactly as you suspected. They ain't going anywhere, at least for the start of the Premier League season. Lots of Manchester United news to get through. United are on the eve of their game against Arsenal in New York, so we will absolutely preview that as the thumbnail suggests. But, Tom, firstly, how are you this Friday night? Happy weekend.
Yeah, I'm very good. Football has returned in some way. Obviously, Manchester United have the pre-season games. I'm disappointed you didn't have belief in me in my sort of guess, or not even a guess. I'd say it was a calculated guess that the Glazers would still be in charge. But as I say, football is back in regards to the US tour. I went along to the football last night in regards to the Women's World Cup. Australia had their first game, which was good to see some live football. But yeah, it all sort of comes back down to earth when you do realise the Americans are still in charge. The Glazers at Manchester United, unfortunately, which I'm sure will have a bit of a discussion about. But yeah, looking forward to the weekend, definitely.
Tom, the reason I didn't believe you, it's not because I don't want to believe you, but the problem is when you choose to be negative about absolutely everything like you do, it's hard for me to get behind it. Like if you were like, oh look, I think the Glazers will be in charge, but United will sign Harry Kane, then you're kind of you're giving me a balance. But
I would say
mate,
I'm,
you're a cynic.
I would say I'm one of the more positive Manchester United fans. Maybe I'm maybe talking more
Compared to
about
who? The miserable pricks on Twitter.
no to the players in terms of sort of you talk about criticise and negative energy towards the players. I'd say I'm probably one of the more positive fans in regards to sort of seeing the good in people, seeing the good in players. I know the Glazers aren't the players, but maybe I'm right to be negative towards the ownership. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed in that appraisal, but yeah, I think I'm one of the more positive people.
Look, I'm going to respectfully disagree, but I consider you a good mate nonetheless, mate. You don't have to change for anybody. But
You could just make the point that I'm correct in regards to saying what I knew was going to happen with the Glazers.
correct, miserable, whichever way you want to go with it. But in all seriousness, how do you feel about the Glazer news? Does it concern you at all that this still won't happen at all, or do you still think, or do you think United will get sold, but it might just be one of those things that's drawn out and unprofessional, much like the Glazers' 18 years at Manchester United has been?
Look, ultimately, I do think we do get sold. And is that a Glazer? Is that a Sir Jim Ratcliffe and it's 70%, or is it Qatar and it's 100%? Ultimately, I think the end goal, Manchester United will change hands. But the end goal, that I'm not saying that could be 2-3 years down the track. It could be 5 years down the track. Ultimately, the Glazers will sell because there'll be billions on the table, which they will take. But I think this still, unfortunately, has a very long way to go. I think we all go back to that initial statement, and it was sort of around the Cristiano Ronaldo Piers Morgan interview when the Glazers did release that statement via the club website. And you go back through it all, and we got so excited about like 3 or 4 words in there. Well, the thing was 2 or 3 pages long, but we stuck as fans and clinged on to 2 or 3 lines where it mentioned sale. Everything else referred to what they've sort of been sort of looking to achieve over the past 2 or 3 years in regards to external investment, just to sort of help along with the stadium, help the training ground as they sort of continue to sort of stay around in the background. So unfortunately, sort of, I think we got a little bit carried away as fans in regards to sort of reading what we wanted to believe rather than what was in front of our eyes. Because if you do look at what the Glazers have been trying to achieve in the last couple of years, and we do look what the sort of their motive and goal has been over the last 18 years, this unfortunately is not a surprise what they're doing.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but you are absolutely right. But Tom, it is the Friday night pint. So in Friday night pint, true spirit, I'm going to go off script for a moment. The new Barbie movie. Do you have any interest in watching that nonsense whatsoever?
I'll let you have a calculated guess of what my answer would be.
Look, just judging by your facial reaction, I think you can't wait to get there and watch yourself some Margot Robbie.
I don't mind her, obviously, but yeah, that's definitely not getting me to the cinema.
Do you know that there were a lot of people suggesting she wasn't quote unquote pretty enough to play Barbie? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Margot Robbie. Beautiful woman.
What's the movie about? Like I know Barbie, it's a character, but like what's the movie about?
I have no idea, but I mean, if it's a boy and a girl, I'm assuming someone's going to chase somebody. I mean, what would if you're going to create a modern dating movie? Here's one for you. Do you think there has to be a movie plot at some point where they meet on Tinder or like they meet through Tinder or something? Just because every
Isn't there like one of the biggest Netflix shows that?
is it? I have no idea. I
There was
don't
this
watch Netflix.
was this huge Netflix, I don't know, it was a TV show or a documentary or something, but it was huge. It was something to do with Tinder.
But it was a documentary. That's the point. Someone's got to release a movie. Like, the traditional plot is boy falls in love with girl, chases girl, whatever. They have to do a storyline where they meet on Tinder.
I'm telling you, Larry, that is not getting me to the cinema.
You're not getting me to the cinema, period. So anyway, I'm going to keep dropping hints until it eventually happens. Tom and I discussed a Manchester United player, and I'm trying to think, how do I word this without giving too much away?
Don't word it. Move on before we get ourselves in trouble.
Okay. It will come up at some point. But anyway, I'll leave it there. Well, all I'll say is one of Manchester United's players has a very interesting taste in style. I'll leave it like that. I'll leave it that open-ended. Now, I could be talking about anything. I could be talking about the food that they like to eat. So I'm just going to leave it there. Tom knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Have you seen Casemiro's cheeks in these training photos? He's enjoyed pre-season.
Yeah, he's looking chubby. He is looking chubby. What do you think he's been eating? Or you can eat Brazilian barbecue.
To be honest, he can do what he wants. I think he carries it well. I think no matter what he does, he's obviously been doing it for a while. He comes back and plays good football. So ultimately, I don't care what he gets up to when he's off season.
Yeah, he looks like, he's definitely looking a bit wider in the cheeks. But look, as long as he does the business on the football pitch, no dramas. I've seen some fat people put in some good performances. Luke Shaw, case in point, we've been calling him fat for years. But he seems to have slimmed down. Nonetheless, he's playing good football, so that's all you can hope for. But let's bring it back to modern Manchester United news time. United obviously do start the tour of the US. Now, Andre Onana, there are reports that he's now on his way to the US. You and I covered Onana in depth, but I want to talk about the game against Arsenal tomorrow because rightly or wrongly, people are going to read into this. So I'm going to start with a really obvious question. It is Arsenal. It's still a big game. And no matter what, whenever you verse a big club, you want to see a competitive performance. I think that's fair to say. Do you expect a strong side to go out against Arsenal?
My first question, is the match tomorrow?
Yeah, it is.
I'm not sure.
Early hours of the morning, I think. Sunday. I think it's 11 p.m. tomorrow.
Okay, no, it's pretty much tomorrow, maybe the day after. But in regards to the team, the starting 11, you'd have to think, no, you do look at the tour.
I'm certain of it. Unless I
can't
might
be tomorrow night, but in the AM, so yeah. Potentially.
Sorry, it's 7 a.m. on Sunday.
Yeah. Obviously, for UK listeners, that might sound different, but you look at our tour squad and look, it'll be very interesting what happens with that Wrexham team. Are the youth team taking a separate flight over and they're not part of the tour squad? I'm not sure how that's going to work, but in terms of that travelling squad, it's first team. Obviously, there are the one or two of the youngsters in there in terms of, obviously, does Hannibal have a future? Alvaro Fernandez have a future, etc.? Kobe Mainu. I think the only sort of huge surprise in regards to a senior tour was Dan Gore. He made the trip, which is good to see. I think his performances in the first two games sort of did warrant that. So good to him, or good on for him. Then you'd have to say now, those first two games, and maybe you throw the Wrexham game in there as well, which is obviously after the Arsenal match. There you sort of get minutes in your legs and sort of one or two sort of youth players, 45 minutes each. Now I think while still quite early in pre-season, I think it's where the manager will start to go down. Maybe some players, maybe who's had the 45 minutes twice, you'd say the Rafael Varane or Sandro Martinez, do they now play 60 minutes against Arsenal? I think that this is where we potentially start to step it up a little bit, and not only step it up in regards to minutes, but probably in team selection. Now, whether Onana comes, he obviously won't play in the Arsenal match, but Onana, when he comes in, is he sort of playing every minute of every game to sort of familiarise himself and get the players familiar with him? I think that's a very strong case. So, look, I don't care about full strength or anything like that, but I think Erik ten Hag needs to start preparing a little bit more specifically now.
Yeah, I think you're right. And for that reason, I think he will go with a strong lineup. I don't think Rashford will start or anything like that, but I think he'll go with a lineup of solid squad players at the very least. So it'll be good to see how we line up. Fred didn't travel, did he? I read Fred's been left in the UK to deal with some personal matters. But
do you think that's a personal matter or a personal transfer matter?
No, I think it is a personal matter. I think if it was about a transfer, we'd get a whiff of it. So, you'd have to. Do you see what happened with Donnarumma and his wife overnight?
Just saw a tweet there. I didn't sort of read the full thing and sort of click on any articles or anything. But it's
it's horrendous.
Yeah, scary.
It is scary. But I'm looking forward to the game. I think, look, honestly, I expect Arsenal to win. I mean, I think they've been playing football
You talk about me
super.
being negative. I was with Rob last night. I mentioned this with Rob. I need, as a fan, as a Manchester United fan, I need to lose a game in pre-season. I'm happy to lose a game. I hate going through pre-season winning all your games because all that guarantees is a loss on the opening day of the season. So I'm happy. I'm happy to lose a game
Like what
this
happened
season.
last season.
What was
That's
last?
what
Oh,
happened
yeah,
last season.
well, case in point. But you look at it, and I don't know who would. I guess we're probably at the same sort of stage as Arsenal. I think we had 2 pre-season games each. So fitness-wise, it was probably a quite even game. But result aside, look,
They've had a stronger. They've put out a stronger lineup than what we
yeah,
have. Though.
yeah. No, maybe a little bit ahead of us in regards to the balance of their whole senior setup. Being a little bit more fit, but look, it's one of those games. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it's pre-season. But ultimately, when it's Man United Arsenal, and full time goes and one team wins, one team loses, someone's going to cop it. Now, it doesn't mean anything, but you'd obviously prefer, to come out on the winning end of it.
If you think Manchester United will beat Arsenal, make sure you do like the video. Tom, on Arsenal though, we haven't really spoken much about them, but we're less than 4 weeks out from the Premier League proper. How do you feel about Arsenal heading into the new season, just given the transfer business that they have done? They've brought in, 3 key players. Declan Rice, obviously headlines that. Timber from Ajax, Julian Timber, who United were linked with strongly last season. And obviously Kai Havertz. How are you feeling looking at Arsenal heading into the season? Do you think, what is success for Arsenal this season? Is it, do they need a match or better what they did last season? Or
Top 4, and that's not to degrade it. Our goal this season is top 4. Yes, we can puff our chest out and say, no, it's win a double, win the Premier League. No, it's top 4. Unfortunately, people don't want to hear that, but that is the reality of the situation. And Arsenal overachieved last season. They well overachieved. And I think if you look at one or two of the sort of their incomings and their outgoings, I think they're pretty much where they were last year. I don't see the hype with Declan Rice. I think if he was from Sweden or if he was from the Czech Republic playing at West Ham, Arsenal would have bought him for 20 million, 25 million. I don't see. I understand Premier League tax, English tax. I understand all those things. 100 million for Declan Rice. Look, he might be a great signing for Arsenal. He's obviously got a good sort of base. He's potentially going to have a very good future in the game. I'm not saying it's not going to be a great signing for Arsenal, but if he's 100 million, I cannot get my head around that. As I said, if he was any other player for West Ham, so we look at Fred and McTominay, he's never got the better of them sort of thing. Like Fred and McTominay, you would expect to dominate against Declan Rice, which they do. Now, obviously, Declan Rice is coming with sort of far weaker tools around him when he does travel with West Ham. But I don't get the £100 million signing there. I'm not to say it's a bad one, but it's crazy for money. I actually think there's something there. But it just looks like him. He's just got a label around him now. We obviously saw him in that skills challenge, being an absolute disaster. Can't hit a target from 12 yards, and maybe there's just something around him like Harry Maguire. There's something there he can play, but there's something everything he touches turns to absolute shit. I think Havertz has unfortunately got himself sort of to that stage of his career, so I don't think the Havertz signing will work. And Timber is the one where, probably a good signing. I think if Eric Ten Hag brought him into Man United, we'll be saying it's a great signing. So. You have to take your hats off and probably say, okay, that could be a good signing for Arsenal, but time will tell. But in regards to them improving, I don't see an improvement on last year. From obviously the financial investment would suggest they will. I don't see them closing the gap on Manchester City, which is obviously what everyone needs to do.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, to be honest. And you're right about Declan Rice. I think it's not even criticism. I mean, he's not going to have the impact that Michael Carrick had when he came from Tottenham. It's just he's not that good of a player. I think he's a good footballer. I think he's a good Premier League midfielder. And I think he belongs in a club that's in the top 6, but he's not going to have the impact where you say he's going to be the linchpin of a midfield. I think he's actually the kind of player where if you actually had the Michael Carrick for him, that would see the best out of Declan Rice. But to be honest, if I were to compare, he's probably a bit better than Scott McTominay. I wouldn't even. Yeah. I think they're the same type of player. Is that fair? I think Declan Rice is maybe just a bit better than Scott McTominay.
And it's not to say Declan Rice isn't a good player. I think he'd potentially be a great player for Arsenal in regards to, I always make the point, you don't have to be a sort of world-class player to be a Manchester United legend. You can get by with other traits and sort of other abilities. And
especially at Arsenal's level.
But if you expect Declan Rice to come to Old Trafford, I expect every one of our midfielders to get better in. That's McTominay, and maybe not, obviously not Kobe Mainoo, but McTominay, Fred, Ericsson, Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes, I'd expect to have a better game than Declan Rice. And again, okay, I expect where Manchester United, a lot of our players should be doing that. But if a £100 million player rocks up, they shouldn't be doing that. But look, that's to take nothing away from him. Look, he might go and have a great season, and fair play to him if he does. But I just look at what that potentially does to the market. And look, Caicedo, I'll take Caicedo over Declan Rice. And if you're looking at that with Declan Rice, if he's 100 million, what are Brighton now going to do? Are Brighton going to charge 150 million for Caicedo? And then are Chelsea going to pay that?
You know what's absolutely hilarious about the Declan Rice deal and the fact that they paid 105 million pounds for him? I think I remember it. It was David Moyes who came out in a press conference one time and said, "Oh, Declan Rice is a £100 million player," and it just from that press conference, they dead set stuck to their guns. No pun intended.
Well, similar thing happened. Obviously, maybe we didn't have the public confirmation of it, but Jack Grealish years ago, obviously, apparently, I don't know whether it was written in his contract or a sort of gentleman's agreement, but Aston Villa saying, okay, if anyone comes in for 100 million for Jack Grealish, we'll accept it, Jack. And City did come in with 100 million. Obviously, not mentioned about City are making all these transfers. Not one murmur about a transfer fee. Manchester United's transfer fees are plastered all over social media for everyone to read. But yeah, it's a funny old game the way this transfer market has worked in recent years, and I don't think there's any end to it. If I don't want to say Declan Rice average in a bad way, but just look at the Premier League on a whole. Your average
midfielder, 6 out of 10 midfielder.
Yeah, but just the Premier League on a whole in terms of De Bruyne to your players at Luton, I think Declan Rice is your average midfielder, a little bit in between. If he's gone for 100 million, that changes the game.
Yeah, well, it doesn't change the game, but it definitely highlights that Arsenal is stupid. I had a point, but I forgot what I was going to make. Well, Declan Rice goes for 105 million, and United apparently can't sell Alex Telles for 4 million. If you follow, there's some reports here now. Fabrizio Romano gave us the here we go about Alex Telles going to Saudi Arabia. All the teams are the same to me, so forgive me for not quoting the team. I think it's the same team as Ronaldo.
Ronaldo's team, yeah.
Yeah. So Alex Telles was due to go to Al Nassr. Or Al Nassr. Got to get that R in. Can you say that for me, Tom?
Not a chance. Not a chance. Our listeners deserve better.
I want to hear you spin your R's.
Continue, my friend.
Okay.
You've already a 5-minute sort of cameo about fucking Barbie. Let's continue.
Fair enough. All right. Well, United can't. Okay, so Fabrizio Romano has given us the here we go for Alex Telles going to Al Nassr, which Tom is not going to pronounce. But now you go on Twitter, and it looks like this deal might actually fall through because Al Nassr don't want to pay £4 million for Alex Telles. Now, if Alex Telles, firstly, isn't worth £4 million, like I personally don't really rate him that highly, but I think $4 million is actually undervalued. On top of that, they're about to pull out because they think, he's too much. Make sense of this for me, please.
Look, you're right. That's undervalued. I think a lot of the criticism and sort of looking back at Alex Telles' time a little bit over the top. At the end of the day, if he was at Sevilla and we wanted to buy the Sevilla left back who just won the Europa League, we'd be paying more than $4 million. He's a brilliant Brazilian international. If we were buying a Brazilian international, we'd be asking for more than $4 million, or would be quoted more than that. So Alex Telles should be going for $10 million in terms of especially what Saudi Arabia spent. They're just probably giving Jordan Henderson $10 million sign-on fee in regards to the move over there. So I have no idea how this now. I don't know if there's confirmation of this deal falling through, but it does look like potentially Saudi are going to walk away from the deal. And you'd love to be a fly on the wall as to how this decision has come about. Was it Saudi's fault? Was it Manchester United's fault? I'm not sure, but something has obviously happened there. And unfortunately, this is not to throw Telles under the bus in this fashion, but if something has happened, we're stuck with the problem. And the problem is Alex Telles, and I call him a problem for the simple fact that he's a Manchester United player earning a wage, who is in, again, not this category, but he's in the Mason Greenwood category of simply not in the squad. He's not at the training ground. Like Manchester United have been back at Carrington. Telles wasn't at Carrington. Manchester United now gone to the USA. Telles hasn't gone to the USA. So he's literally, what you'd say, frozen out. And I just think, do we need another frozen out player collecting, I don't know, what's he on, probably 50K a week, 60K a week? Actually, probably more than that, to be fair. It was quite a big money signing. Let's say put him on around 100K a week, doing absolutely nothing. And that's the story of what Manchester United do. I'd
happily take that pay packet for doing nothing.
Look at Jordan Henderson. I want to mention Jordan Henderson there. That deal went through. He's going to Saudi Arabia. That's
for 30 million. Henderson gets sold for 30 million. We can't sell Tellez, who's 3 years younger, for 4.
I don't understand the decision in regards to, you look what Saudi Arabia are doing in regards to names they're bringing and what they're trying to build, and you think, okay, whatever you think of it, it's a clear plan. There's a clear sort of goal and motive there. Jordan Henderson's not that player. He's not going to sell shirts or sort of be on the TV sort of thing. I understand that the argument of sort of potentially a little bit of a backhander in terms of getting someone across who's been so against you in regards to turning his morals. I understand that argument. There's a bit of a power play. But Jordan Henderson, he's not going to sort of grow the game in Saudi Arabia. And I'm just thinking to spend so much of a budget, whether they have a budget or not, you know what I mean? Such a big chunk of money.
They do have a budget. I think, who said it? I'm trying to remember. I think the budget is something like it's X amount of billions of dollars until 2030. I want to say it's like 12 billion. I think it's 12 billion until 2030 that they've got to spend in transfer fees and wages.
Interesting what UEFA and the Premier do if they step in along the way and sort of make their own rules.
Remember, they don't come under UEFA. They actually come under Asia. Who governs the Asian body of football?
Yeah, actually, the AFC.
Who?
The AFC. So it's like UEFA, but the Asian Football Confederation.
Yeah, right. Well, they won't do anything. Hey, stop signing Ronaldo and Sadio Mane apparently. And
look, Ronaldo's gave himself a little bit of a pat on the back, hasn't he, Ronaldo, in regards to saying this? They're all coming because of me. But obviously that's not the case. But he can sit back and, well, if he didn't go, I don't think Saudi Arabia would be doing what they are.
I think Ronaldo is doing a hell of a job at making himself quite unlikable at the moment. I think
he's always been this character. It's just the character's now off the back of not successful football.
But he's always had this. Yeah. But that's the problem. You can get away with a lot as long as you're at the top of your game. And I almost put Ronaldo at the moment into the Conor McGregor category, where Conor McGregor built his popularity on talking utter shit, but he was able to back it up. But if you look at McGregor's popularity, along with his his indiscretions away from the cage or the boxing ring at times, the thing is, once you start losing or you're no longer performing, people's patience for your abhorrent comments, to be honest, seems to be a lot less patient. And I think Ronaldo's in that category because let's not make a secret about it. Or rewrite the script. Erik ten Hag beat Cristiano Ronaldo. Erik ten Hag pushed Cristiano Ronaldo out of Old Trafford. Yeah, you can say Ronaldo forced his way out by doing the Piers Morgan interview, but that Piers Morgan interview came because Ronaldo didn't have the power that he once did, or that he thought he would command. But Ten Hag took full control. And that's what led to Ronaldo behaving the way Ronaldo did. And again, I like it to Conor McGregor. So, look, at the end of the day, time heals all wounds. And when the dust settles, Ronaldo's a Manchester United legend. He'll still be loved and adored by a majority of the fan base. But you can't be making comments like, oh, the MLS is this and people following me to Saudi. And I think people would be going to Saudi regardless.
Look, it's not even what players say. Like in terms of, you mentioned McGregor or Ronaldo or whatever, it's in terms of being allowed to get away with whatever if you bring success. And you look at a player's wage. We haven't discussed Marcus Rashford's contract. In terms of, I think we're both on the side, okay, it's good to sort of tie him down. But at the moment, when Marcus Rashford is scoring goals, we'll think, how good is this? Suddenly, if he goes through a 3 or 4 month sort of dry spell, we'll be starting to look at his wage and think, how do we put him on this wage? And sort of we'll highlight things there. So it's not just what someone sort of says on camera. It's obviously what goes into their bank account, which will influence our feelings towards a player.
At least Rashford's likable, though. Like, Rashford's not... He dresses loud, but in terms of his actual demeanor, the way he speaks, comes across as like a humble kid, United fan, local junior, does charitable deeds. So, like, Rashford still has that in his back pocket, whereas Ronaldo's...
Oh, no, I mean, Alexis Sanchez. Sanchez. Like, he was getting paid too much money, so we always highlighted the wage because he wasn't performing. Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. At the end of the day, whether you're on £20,000 a week or £500 per week, if you're performing, no one blinks at your salary. Yeah. But that's the way it goes. That is absolutely the way it goes. Rasmus Højlund. Now, I'm not sure if United have made 10 bids for this player or no bids for this player. Depends what you read. Fabrizio Romano's story changes. Every other journalist is just following him. I don't know what's happening. I think a bid is imminent. It looks like it'll land somewhere between the 50 to 70 million pound mark. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's probably about the right price for, if not the brightest up-and-coming striker, one of? How do you feel about that price range, 50 to 70 million?
It feels too much. I think when we first say it and sort of what we know of the kid, I think it looks a little bit too much. But then in terms of, okay, we're saying Declan Rice is worth 100 million. If Ten Hag believes this kid's going to be an absolute superstar in 5 years' time, well, it could be a bargain. So again, it probably is about right. It seems a little bit too much in my opinion. But what did we sign Anthony Martial for? That was back in 2015. Let's say it's ballpark. Let's say that was 50 million. Sort of thing. That was obviously part of the song. So let's say the same price, around the same thing. You buy a player 7-8 years later for that amount of money, you think, yeah, it probably is worth a gamble.
Who had more potential at the same age, though?
Well, did we know Martial before Manchester United were linked with him 2 days before that?
I used him on FIFA a couple of times. He didn't have a picture.
That's the thing. Højlund's name, and look, I've never seen Højlund play 90 minutes, but his name has obviously been bandied about for a couple of months this season. Now, obviously, Ten Hag is the one who his opinion weighs most here. So the money does seem a little bit too much for me, but I've also got...
Martial scored 17 goals in his first season for United as an 18-year-old.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm saying Martial was good. So I'm saying if this is, let's say, put Højlund in the same category as Martial in regards to, okay, go get the next sort of, I'd say, superstar, and that next big player who's a little bit under the radar, it's almost a very similar signing, so I'd say a similar price. But in regards to, is it a similar price if it's 7 or 8 years down the track? It's with inflation, I think it could actually potentially be a good deal. That's me obviously trying to convince myself it would be a good deal. But what it tells me at the moment in regards to the feeling is whether it's too much money or a good deal, or whether he's a good player or a bad player. It's what it's telling me is he's Manchester United striker next year, and that is a concern.
Mike makes a good point here. Goncalo Ramos, why have United not been linked there, do you think? Because he seems a pretty obvious choice. 21 years of age, good goal scorer, scored over 20 goals in this past season for... he's not playing for Sporting. Benfica, that's the one. He scored over 20 goals for Benfica, a more traditional number 9, killed it at the World Cup. Why have United not been linked with Gonçalo Ramos? Do you think it's one that maybe they've pursued on the down low, but clearly are being told a price that they can't afford?
Look, you'd assume there's been contact made there. Like, you put 2 and 2 together, there'd have to be conversations there, but no other clubs are in for him. I just think if he didn't have that World Cup, would we be talking about him?
I think we should. I think.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but it's just I think that World Cup stands out, and that's not to say he's not worth it. He's not doing great things in Portugal. I just think in regards to he's not linked with Chelsea. Chelsea need a striker. He's not going to Real Madrid. He's not going to Barcelona. Manchester City, obviously, just City don't need a striker. But you know what I mean. He's just a name that's not really bandied about, and maybe he should be. I'm not to say he shouldn't be sort of linked with these big clubs, but sometimes these players who, their names maybe go a little bit ahead of sort of the reality of the situation. But look, here's a name. If you could get him for the same price, and he's potentially a bit more of a guarantee of goals, you'd have to say maybe it's a little bit smarter business.
Well, I just think he's a better number 9 at this stage of his career, but maybe with the physical attribute. But I mean, Højlund's a better athlete, so I suppose maybe the logic is, like you've made this point before, maybe Højlund, you're guaranteeing he's pressing from the front, he's quick. The idea of him and Rashford up front is exciting. Tom, but yeah, I guess you're right. I guess we'll wait and see where this one goes. But I'm with you. I think Højlund will be Manchester United's new striker. And I still think Martial will stick around. He's been so you mentioned to me that you thought Martial won't be fit until Wolves, but he's been listed in the US squad, so he'll play.
You expect him to look, and look, I like Martial. You know, I like Martial, but he's one of those ones. Like, do we expect him to be? I know he's travelled. He's on the tour. That's great. Fingers crossed. Do you think he'll be fit for Arsenal? Like, I just think it's one of those ones. I think we've had this discussion for so many years. We're having the same one. It's hope. We hope he's fit for Wolves. So I think if we're sort of planning in hope, it's the wrong type of planning. Unfortunately, I'm sure Erik ten Hag is thinking that as well. He obviously wants Harry Kane. He wants whatever striker, and I just think if we're planning, okay, we'll bring Højlund in, but fingers crossed Martial is fit and Højlund come off the bench in the last 20 minutes, the reality of the situation come match day, that the French striker won't be there and we'll have to play the kid from the start. And I just think, unfortunately, that's been the dance for the last 3 or 4 years. And
Yeah.
we're going to have to come to a time as a club where we move on from that discussion. And that's not me. I want Martial to stay because I think he's a great player, but just how long are we going to do this?
Yeah, I think if Martial left United, I think he'd be that kind of player who, on his day, like Saint Maximin is another example. I think Martial's got a better output than Saint Maximin, but similar in the sense of when they get it right, they're brilliant to watch, but they don't get it right very often. And that's been Martial's career. I mean, he's been at United for 8 years, 9 years. So
he stays around. He's getting a testimonial.
yeah, well, that's the point. So, I think if he was going to do it on a more consistent basis, he would have done it already. So, yeah, it's a shame, but you're right. I think he'll stick around, but yeah, you'd think Højlund will be your starting striker by the end of the season. I don't think he'll start the season as your starting striker. I think he'll be eased in, but by the end of the season, I think Martial will be the one that's on the outer. Tom, before we wrap up, I didn't get a chance to we haven't had a chance to talk about the Lyon game. A few highlights for me. Donny van de Beek obviously scoring a great goal. Gore putting in a great cross and a good performance. The one that I feel like no one's really talking about, but the thing that I liked, Anthony playing off the left.
I noticed that the first couple of minutes.
I liked it.
I thought, well, brilliant. That first, say, 15, 20 minutes, it didn't result in any goals. And I don't know if it was the case because Anthony was on the left, this sort of was the end result. For the first 20 minutes, I was really happy. And maybe not so much attacking. If I think we had Harry Kane, we're 4-0 up in the first 10 minutes. So I think if you have a striker, it changes things. But in terms of the way we played, the intensity, sort of the patterns to our play in terms of where we're winning the ball back high up the pitch, I bet Eric Ten Hag would be extremely happy with that first half. Now, like the first game, the goal came in the second half, which is weird because I think the better performances have been early on. But ultimately, yeah, very good. The individuals, I think, is what you sort of look at. You look in sort of two aspects of preseason. You do want the collective and see how we're playing, but you also, every individual has their own story and their own path sort of leading in towards the season. So you're looking at Alvaro Fernandez. Okay, is he perform? Is he going to sort of get that backup left back spot? Is Kovar performance? He's going to get a career at Old Trafford. Is Dangor going to get a spot on the tour? So you're looking at all these individual stories. How's this play? Is Jadon Sancho going to bounce back in all this form? So I think if you look across individually, besides Jadon Sancho, who I thought had a poor game, everyone else, I think, whether it be the old experienced players or the youth players coming through, I thought everyone sort of put a positive step forward.
Yeah, I'm with you. And look, you're right. It was a good performance. And I was happy for Donny. You could see the goal means a lot to him. So there you go. Like, there's no game that's not important for someone who's been off with, we suspect was a ruptured ACL. It's good to see him come back and not just score a good goal, looked good. It's Lyon, it's preseason. I understand that, but
look, if Donny van de Beek plays well, he's not. I wouldn't say an answer to our midfield, but if he plays well, he's why you brought in a player like that in. He's hard now because you sort of got Mason Mount in that role.
It'd be his fourth season at United.
And I just think that the way his qualities, if he was playing well, it's like Harry Maguire. If Harry Maguire was playing well, he'd be very good. At the moment, he's playing very bad, so he's bad. If Donny van de Beek, if everything clicked for him, he'd be a great asset to have in midfield. But will he play good?
Donny's been weird. He hasn't been bad per se, just not busy. Like when he's been on the pitch, he just doesn't seem to get involved, or the ball doesn't seem to find him, and he doesn't seem to find the ball. Yeah, it's a weird one because he's got the ability. It's just been really unfortunate for him. Do you think there's any chance he stays at United this season?
Yeah, no, there's a big chance. I think if an offer comes in, I think there'll be not a tendency, a bit of an idea to move him on and to attract bids. I think they'll welcome someone to come to the table and sort of sit down with Donny van de Beek and say, look, okay, it might not happen at Man United. Do you fancy this move? And I think if that came, it would be quite a smooth transition out of the club. But if a deal doesn't come through, you're looking at it and, okay, Fred leaves. Okay, you're going to have to replace him with a midfielder. You don't want to say like a new signing. We don't want to sort of go down that route. But Donny van de Beek coming in for Fred would be like a new signing. Again, that sounds bad because it's the last thing we want to hear as fans. But I think, I'm not saying there should be a future for Donny van de Beek at United. I'm not saying I'd want it or don't want it. But I definitely do see a situation where he is at United.
Yeah, look, if he sticks around and he plays well, I'm rooting for him. But it's his fourth season. I mean, if he does stick around, he really does have to hit the ground running and repay that faith that Eric Ten Hag has shown. But Tom, I think we'll leave it there, mate. Nice quick video. Happy Friday night pint to you. We seem to be drinkless, so we'll have to work on that. But hopefully you and I can get back into the pub next week. I'm very much be looking forward to that. But stay tuned. We'll obviously We'll review, rather, the Arsenal game on Sunday, so stay tuned for that. Maybe go live after the game, see if we're both awake and able. But we'll definitely bring a review. Any news that breaks, we'll bring it to you. And remember, because we're in Australia, we're in the future, so if something happens in the world, we'll be the first to know it. But Tom, happy to see you, mate, as always. Hope you have a great weekend. Cheers to everyone in the comments. Subscribe if you're new. We're on our way to 2,000 subscribers. Help us reach that before the end of the season. Tom's left me prematurely and he's back. But Tom, have a great weekend.
You too, mate. Everyone in the live chat, enjoy yourselves. And as I say, we'll chat to you fairly soon. I'd say 7 a.m. game out for here in Sydney. So, yeah, I think live post-match be a bit of fun if we win.
Indeed. Have a great weekend and we'll see you then. Cheers.